Hello, welcome everyone. Welcome back from our short winter break of the Tea and Slide session. Today I am happy that we are back, and today is our 16th HBP Tea and Slide session, which usually takes place every first Thursday of the month. You've already seen a few instructions, but for those of you who have not attended a Tea and Slide session before, I'll shortly explain the format again. So this is a virtual tea or coffee break with talks by young researchers presenting their work. We have two 10-minute talks followed by a discussion, which we will have after the two talks. Today we have Xiting Long presenting on data transfer service in FENIX and Lise Bitsch talking about responsible research and innovation in the Human Brain Project. If you have any questions to the speaker, you can use the Q&A, which you should see at the bottom, and post your questions here. And you can already post your questions in the Q&A during the talk, and you can also post them anonymously. I will then read the question to the speaker afterwards. But I would also like to encourage you to use the raise your hand button, and I will then ask you to unmute yourself, and you can then ask the question also verbally during our discussion session. Also, this session will be recorded and be available later at the e-library and on YouTube. So now that we have clarified all the technical details, I am excited to introduce you to our first speaker, Xiting Long. Xiting did her master in an Erasmus Mundus program called SECLO, which stands for Security and Cloud Computing. She therefore has a master degree in computer science from both the Aalto University in Finland and from the University of Tartu in Estonia. Xiting joined the research center in Jülich in 2020 and has been working on the data transfer service for the Human Brain Project in the work package 6 since then. Today, Xiting will talk about the cloud services that are deployed at the HPC centers in FENIX, with a main focus on the challenge of the data transfer service that is needed due to the cross-site collaborations in the HBP. So thank you for being here, Xiting, and the stage is yours.
Today, my topic is about data transfer service in FENIX. And could you go on to the next slide, please? Yes. Before I start, I would like to give you a little bit of context here on the data repositories in FENIX. So for FENIX services in general, it can be divided into services in two environments. So one being the HPC environment and the other being the cloud environment. In the traditional HPC environment, we have so-called active data repository. This is to store short-term data sets that need to be close to the computing resources. And on the other hand, we have cloud environment, and there we have archival data repository. And this repository is to store long-term and large data sets. And particularly in FENIX, the archival data repository have OpenStack Swift interface, meaning that they are all OpenStack Swift object store. Could you go on to the next slide, please? Yes. So the function that data transfer service does is very, very simple. It's just to transfer data from archival data repository to another archival data repository. Although you might wonder, this seems like something that cloud computing services should already provide. That's not true. And that's why we need data transfer service to do such thing for different users that require, say, data transfer to different projects in different sites. And the figure shown here is a simple workflow of how a user can use the data transfer service to transfer files. So first of all, the user needs to authenticate to FENIX AI. And FENIX AI here is a federated authentication and authorization service, meaning that if you are a user from any of this FENIX sites, or even if you're an HBP user, you should be able to authenticate to FENIX AI and therefore access a FENIX service like the data transfer service. So after authentication, you might just submit a job and then your file will be transferred from one archival data repository to another. Could you go on the next slide, please? So in particular, we are using FTS as the data transfer service node. And we're using FTS REST server as a front end for FTS, and such that the user can submit requests to it. Should you go on the next slide, please? Yes. So today I would like to present some demos. And in my demos, I hope that I can show you well that how you can use FTS REST CLI to submit a transfer like the one in the slide here. And could you go on to the next slide, please? Yes. So this is web FTS is, well, compared to the CLI, is a much better user interface. And this is work in progress. So today I would also like to show you a very short demo about this as well. Yes, and thank you very much. I would try to share the whole screen, which is the only option I have right now. I hope you can see. Yes, so this is the video of using the REST CLI to do this. And here is the OpenStack horizon dashboard. And here what you see is the one at CSCS. And this is the OpenStack Swift Object Store at BSC. Yes, these are my test containers, and inside there are some objects. And what we are doing now is to submit a transfer. What you do is that you use a command, FTS REST transfer submit, and you need to specify which FTS endpoint you are using. Here, because I'm running locally, so I type localhost, but we have a FTS server at BSC coming soon, which you can actually try yourself. And then you have to provide your access token. In this, I mean, here I use a FENIX token. Since I don't have much time, I would prefer not to show you how I get this token, but please be assured that this is something quite easy to do as well, even if you're using command line. So to submit a transfer, you have to give FTS like the project you're in for the Swift transfer. And here I'm using this project, FENIX 102, and I just get the project ID from there. And at CSCS, my project ID is, yes, this one. So basically what you do is something really simple. So I want to transfer from CSCS to BSC, then I just give the two project ID like this. And then it's really simple. Then you specify your source object. And here I'm using, so my source object is the one from CSCS object store in test container. And I have a test file. And I would like to transfer it to BSC. And then I would just call it a test. Okay, another directory, CSCS, and I would like to call it test copy. Well, these warnings are for development issues. Well, anyways, and you can see that the job is successfully submitted. And let's see if it actually works in the horizon dashboard. Here, you can see that this is a test container, and you can see a new directory, a CSCS, and then inside we have our test copy. Really simple. Okay. So now, since I still have a little bit of time, I would like to show you how you can submit a transfer in WebFTS. This is relatively easy. You just click login, and that was the FENIX IDP site. And I would like to use my CSCS account to authenticate myself. So here I am, redirected to the login page of CSCS. And as you can see, I'm logged in. That's my name. And I would like to submit a transfer. So here is the same idea. You have to give the project ID, because in FENIX, in OpenStack, the project is a kind of storage space. So you need to be very specific. Okay, I want to transfer from this Swift object store and at this storage space to another storage space. Okay, you can click the load button, and then you can have a list of what you have in that container or folder, depends on which you're typing. I'm using the container. So yes, this is what I have. And I click this test.txt file, and I would like to submit a transfer, and this is what it is. And then you can go to My Jobs tab to see, okay, I have submitted a job. And then just check if it works. You can go to Object Store, exactly. And there it is. We have a text file. It's successfully submitted. Okay, that would be my demo today. Thank you very much.
We will for now move on to Lise, and I will also introduce you to Lise Bitsch. She holds a PhD. She is currently she's currently a senior project manager at the Danish Board of Technology Foundation and work package lead on responsible research and innovation in the EU flagship Human Brain Project. She also has experience as coordinator of the EU co-creation project Go Nano, which stands for Governing Nanotechnologies through Societal Engagement. And she is working on responsible research and innovation in several other EU projects. She specializes in citizen and expert engagement on science and technology, and has a background in science and technology studies. Today, Lise will present her work on responsible research and innovation in the Human Brain Project, with a main focus on public engagement with science. So we are also excited to have you here, Lise, as an expert on RI, and yeah, we are looking forward to your talk. So Lise, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much, Tabea, and thank you very much for having this HBP Tea Slides. I think it's a really nice format for us to meet across the project. So I hope everyone is seated comfortably with a cup of coffee and that you will enjoy it. So I'm pretty excited to be here today to share a little bit about what we're doing in the HBP on public engagement and why public engagement, because that's a question that we often get. So I will start with a bit of the background for public engagement, what it is, and hoping that my slides will change when I click the arrows. They do not. They just did. Oh, here we go. Okay.
Now it works great.
So we, in the Human Brain Project, we carry out public engagement activities within this framework called Responsible Research and Innovation, or RRI for short. And public engagement is an activity within that framework, but actually it has a history that is longer than this framework has been in existence, because that's a framework that is partly also a policy concept coming into existence for around 10 to 12 years ago. But public engagement activities with science is something that has been going on for much longer than that. So it is an RI activity, but it has its own individual history as well. It is a concept that is used sort of widely, one could say, across different several disciplines within academia, but also in different areas of practice and by different actors. For example, yeah, within academia, social scientists use the term, but also practitioners that work as educators or work in science museum use the term. So it has led to some confusion also about what is actually meant when using this term public engagement. So it can mean anything actually, depending on where you sort of look at the application. If you're, for example, in science communication or science museums, it is sometimes or oftentimes, not always, used to sort of to mean exhibitions or presentations, or what we would refer to as more sort of one-way dialogue. Then it's not a dialogue, but presentations to publics. There is a sort of a continuum ranging from levels where there's little sort of involvement and back and forth to types of engagement that are more open, dialogical, even co-creative. And the work that we are doing in HBP, we understand that the term public engagement as something where a two-way dialogue is required or needed. And it has to be a dialogue that gives opportunity for influence or for something to change as a consequence of that dialogue, and a dialogue which has the purpose of better understanding each other, both for science to understand public, and with public we mean both lay citizens, but also various forms of experts like philosophers, lawyers, NGOs. So there's really a wide spectrum of publics that can be targeted as part of a dialogue, really with this aim of better understanding and the opportunity for influence in terms of science policy or agenda setting for research, design, process, and so forward. And you could do it in many different ways, organizing this two-way dialogue. There's many methods out there for how to do it. And this is a bit, I said it has a long history, and the slide presents some of this history, but it's maybe a bit complex, but within sort of social science, there has been sort of a movement from understanding public engagement as we call it a deficit model, where the public was seen as an empty vessel, sort of in need of education and more knowledge about scientific developments, because it was sort of with the implicit motivation of having the public agree or having the public go along, let's say, with scientific and technological developments towards an understanding of the public, widely understood as also a group that has knowledge, that has important insights, that is also useful for scientific and technological development to move forward in the best possible way. So that is where this move towards a dialogue, a recognition of the need for a dialogue, comes from. It also comes from, I mentioned already, public and stakeholders have valuable knowledge, but it also comes from calls wider, not just from academia, but also from policy, of democratizing science as a public activity, opening it up and making it more transparent how prioritizations are made, how funds are divided, how decisions are made in terms of what is valuable scientific activities. And also public engagement has been argued for as helpful in terms of improving the base for decision making, in terms of what is a good thing to do, or what is it that is actually needed when helping to contribute to solving XYZ problem in a specific setting. So these are the kinds of activities, together with the more sort of traditional science communication, and also something that's called citizen science, that is part of this framework of responsible research and innovation. There are also other theories that have contributed to the development of public engagement. Two of the maybe most important for our work is something that's called Arnstein's ladder of participation, which is both a topology, but it's also an ideal of citizen participation. So this is a specific group of the public citizens arguing that co-creation is actually the ideal for engagement and co-creation, where publics where some of the power is given to citizens also to develop and come up with ideas and take initiative. And that ideal is one that has influenced the work that we are doing here at the DBT a lot. That does also the work that we're doing in the HBP, and also an ideal that influences many other groups that work with citizen participation. Another prominent figure that's been very important in development of this movement, let's say, is a German philosopher, Habermas, who developed his theory of deliberative democracy, particularly after the Second World War, with this understanding, or how do you say, well, his understanding and it's what's that in English? When you propose something, well, that you know, in order to be a citizen in a democracy, it's not something that you just are. You have, you know, both your rights, but you also have your duties, and you, as a citizen, to be a citizen means to be active, and in order to be able to be active, you need to be able to participate in democratic dialogue. And his ideal for democratic dialogue is deliberative ideal, where everyone sits down and imagines themselves as equals in order to deliberate on what is the best course of action for our societies. And that's spilled over a lot into also how we model and ideally think about engagement and dialogue in the activities that we carry out. Then there are also in policy, particularly in policy circles more generally, a community of scholars and something that's called the Democracy R&D Network that are committed to these ideals of deliberative democracy and work with that in many different thematic areas. Right now, there's a lot going on, for example, in terms of environment and climate change. Okay, so how much time do I have left?
About 4 minutes.
4 minutes. Okay, this slide, I just wanted to show that the goals or objectives of public engagement can be manifold. You can do it for many different purposes, and you can do it about, we'll say, well, 3 main things: technological, scientific aspects, societal aspects, or policy aspects. And the types of outcomes that you could be looking for, we have also sort of grouped in three main types of outcomes. So either you can be have a goal of raise knowledge, or form attitudes, or initialize action. What makes this figure a little bit complex is also that you can combine these different aspects, but also goals in processes where you apply different methodological tools to reach different goals and combine them in different processes. So this is just sort of to give an overview, and maybe inspiration to show that there's really a lot that you can be trying to do with public engagement activities. I just wanted to make this slide also just to show you a little bit about what we are doing in the HBP at the moment with public engagement. Here we are running public engagement activities with citizens, but also with experts that we are organizing one-day workshops. We call them mixing of minds, because we facilitate meetings between experts, including neuroscientific experts and lay citizens, to discuss. And in this particular case, they're discussing international collaboration and data governance, and making their recommendations to the HBP. We have the face-to-face workshops, so where the citizens and experts meet, and then we are also organizing online events where citizens are guided with video facilitation to also discuss these questions, although these online events are without the experts dialogue. And this is something that's ongoing right now. We have set 6 of the face-to-face mom workshops where we have engaged 48 different multi-stakeholders with different backgrounds in the discussions with citizens. Had 60 global small-scale events so far and engaged around 500 citizens for the Human Brain Project. And right now we are in the very first phases of analysis to see what actually comes out of all of these dialogues that we can take back into the HBP with the aim of contributing to the development of an ethics strategy that we're working on within Work Package 9, an ethics strategy for how brain projects can deal with the ethical issues that emerge from the type of brain research that projects such as the HBP are doing. That was it. Thank you.
I would already like to ask one question to Xiting. So what's actually the bandwidth? Do you have measurements on that?
Not yet, because we don't have one that's currently running for user. And we are planning to have a test server, and there we let, say, a fraction of user to try to use it, and then we see, okay, what's the requirement from user? And then we decide on, okay, how much space we need and how many servers we need in general.
I see. Okay, yeah, that was actually my follow-up question. So depending on the user, you will also decide on how much data you can transfer in one transaction. So just depends on what the user needs, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because we have everything available, but we don't know exactly what would be the case if we actually let user to use it.
Okay, it's nice, interesting, I see. And there was one question in a Q&A, but someone actually answered it maybe already. It was a question to Lise, asking what have been the main achievements of public engagement in the HBP?
Yes, someone was me.
Oh, you answered it already?
Yes.
Okay, so you would you like to repeat it orally again?
Yes, I can't get a view of my reply again, but it doesn't open in the chat when I click on it, but it doesn't matter. So far, I mean, well, this is from the start of the project in 2013. We have worked here. Thanks, many thanks. We have worked on 3 main topics. So the first topic that we took up, and this is back in 2013, before GDPR, was data protection and privacy in research projects. And then we worked on dual use issues, and now we're working on data governance and international collaboration. And I think back and every time we have done public engagement exercises, we have been part of writing what we call them ethics and society opinions in the old structure of the project. And from those opinions, a number of things have actually happened in the project. I'm not I'm not doing justice to it, because and it's hard to show linear, of course, relationships or say causal. They say this happened because of that, but there were really many discussions in the start of the project around, and still are, of course, on data protection, privacy, and governance, and how to best to do it. But definitely some of the achievements that were made there, and I think partly then also because of the engagement exercises but not only, of course, because it ended up also having to be something that just had to be there. But we have a data protection officer, the agreement across the project of the necessity of that, and the privacy impact assessments, the establishment of the dual use working group to implement recommendations from the ethics and society opinion on dual use. It's also really a main sort of achievement outcome. The establishment at all of an ethics director within the project. So many things that happened over the years.
Okay, so quite many progress, as I can tell, but sometimes it's kind of hard to keep track.
It's hard to say it happened directly because of the public engagement exercises, but results that we got from those exercises were written into the opinions, and then the opinions themselves formed, a basis for further discussions within the project, and then things happen. But
I see. Okay, thanks. And since you mentioned also data protection, I would actually like to use that topic and ask Xiting if you also have like data protection, any security measurements in place.
That will be offered by the OpenStack Swift itself. It's not about what what data transfer service does, because the data would just be downloaded to the data transfer service node, which is, well, in the sense that it's not open to any user, and then we'll upload it to this OpenStack Swift object store again.
I see. So you don't take care of that, but there are security measurements, of course, in place.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. And I would have one more question to Lise. Since you mentioned the workshops that you offered, the mixing of the minds, I think you called them. How do you actually get the citizens? Like, who do you do you just call them, or like I'm interested in how you actually find citizens to participate in those workshops.
It's a good question, because it's not a simple it's not simple. And I would say strategies are different for different countries, but how we would normally do it here in Denmark is that we pay for say a section or sample population that we can contact, that have this cover sort of criteria, socio-demographic or whatever that we sort of ask for, and then we write letters to a large sample, and then we expect maybe a maximum of 5% of the people that we contact to reply that they would like to be part of an exercise, and then in the end a small percentage of those 5% end up participating. So that's one way of doing it. But we have also over the years built, let's say, a catalog of participants that we contact again, of course, with their permission, that they are interested in sort of being re-engaged. Then
So if they've been engaged once, they're more likely to probably
yes,
again.
Depending on the experience, of course, that they had when engaging with us. But there are many different strategies in different countries. Some countries sending letters to people is an absolute no-go, for example, and that goes, for example, for Poland, where we had not this time but previously also some engagement exercises in Portugal, where we've also done it. It's better for they call people and advertised on radio shows. So it's really different, and there are many different opportunities, and we always partner up with organizations with the same mission, let's say, that we have in the different countries, and then they we coordinate them carrying out the actual activities in their country, because everything also has to be translated, and they know the local and the country and culture and everything.
Yeah, very interesting. Hard process, I imagine.
It is maybe more work than what we initially sort of imagined, particularly because we do it across Europe. So we really make an effort of getting as much as possible input from different parts of Europe.
Yeah. I don't see any further questions, and we're also already a bit over time. So thank you both again for presenting your great work here. And I think we can close the session. Make sure you dial in again for our next Tea Slides session, which will take place on the 7th of April. And we already have one confirmed speaker, Dr. Inga Oniken, who will talk about responsible artificial intelligence. So again, covering some important ethical aspects of the research. And if you're also interested in presenting your work, please check out the HBP Tea Slides website and reach out to the HBP education team at education@humanbrainproject.eu. So thank you once again, and special thanks to our speakers, of course, and hope to see you all at the next session.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye.